Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sachs, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sachs.
Welcome to another edition of Someone You Should Know. Hope everyone is doing well, feeling well, staying safe. We're going to have a great show, but I want to just start off by reminding everyone today is the very last show on Friday, because starting next week, we're moving Someone You Should Know to Wednesday mornings. Same time, same station, but starting next week, we will be on Wednesday mornings at 10 o'clock instead of on Friday mornings. So make sure you mark that down on your calendar. Very, very important. This gentleman sitting next to me, Dr. Roger Widmer, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me this morning.
Well, I'm very, very glad to have you with us. And Dr. Widmer is the new COO of the Collin County Corporate College. And for those of you that are in the DFW area, we all know what Collin College is all about. And Collin College has several divisions. I did not even know that there was a corporate college. I've known about the extended program that you have. There's a senior program that I've been active in for the last few years. And of course, the regular undergraduate program and even a 4-year programs that have been now instituted. But the corporate college is a kind of a separate and a different entity. And I want you to start by telling our audience a little bit about what Collin Corporate College is all about.
I'd be happy to, Stuart. Thank you so much. Corporate learning is a part of continuing education, but it's different than, let's say, our continuing education office and department that puts out its own catalog and has its own courses. We really work with individual clients. We customize training programs or learning programs for them and professional development programs for them. And so it could be any topic. It could be, something around essential soft skills. It could be something around business solutions, executive resources, IT or computer education. Those are the primary areas of specialization that we focus on. And so we work with individual clients. We actually have them decide or share with us what their learning outcomes look like. What is it they want their employees to learn by the time they finish with the half day, the full day, the week-long boot camp, whatever the training happens to be. And we bring in subject matter experts from Collin College in some cases, or outside of Collin College when we need to help facilitate that learning experience.
How long has this program been in existence?
So my understanding is, and I'm fairly new, I've only been here since the first of the year. My understanding is that the Collin Corporate College launched 3 years ago. However, the actual function of training at the corporate level and has existed much longer than that, but officially as the Corporate College for 3 years.
And I would imagine that when this was set up 3 years ago, there was a certain focus as to what they wanted to accomplish and how. And then all of a sudden, February, March of this year, we get nailed with the coronavirus. It has put a lot of corporations into a tailspin because they've had to, in many cases, cease their in-person operations. They've gone to virtual work and programming. And has this impacted your ability to connect with these corporations and to positively offer them options to their in-house training programs?
Yeah, a couple comments on that. I think that certainly a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, which is really my demographic and the client that we serve most often, a lot of them have retreated into survival mode, right? It's kind of how do we protect the core business, and oftentimes when that happens, a training budget might be seen as not as necessary to the core business. And so we've seen
one of the things they may have to put on the back burner.
That's right. That's right. Now, other organizations have said, well, we're going to utilize this time when everyone is home to actually increase the amount of training that might be offered. So, I think we've seen and certainly experienced both sides of that. But I also think that for us, up to the early spring, most of our training and learning experiences were face-to-face, and we did deliver them on site. We would go out to the client's facility, and so we had to pivot. We had to figure out, exactly how do we take some of these things that have been very successful face-to-face, and how do our subject matter experts replicate that experience, because it's not always the same to do that online, and especially if they're not accustomed to doing it online, how do they utilize technology to deliver a quality experience? So, it was. I think there were pain points around that, but I think we've learned a lot, and I think we've, I would say, become more resilient in a sense that we're able to deliver much more online than we have in the past.
Are you finding that your connections work both ways? It's you reaching out to the corporations to say we can offer these programs to you, and it's also corporations coming to you saying, we got a little dilemma here. We don't have people on site to train, and we need help in training them in other ways. Is it a two-way street?
Yeah, we definitely. We've reached out to our clientele and shared with them the fact that we have this capacity now, right? And that certainly has been well received, because I think that in most cases they certainly were unable to do anything face to face. Now it's interesting that we're starting to get more and more requests now of actually returning to some type of face to face or some type of a hybrid, where we'll do a portion of it live, maybe not as much as we would have in the past, and then a portion is delivered virtually.
And then what? So what is the process? You get a phone call from a corporation that says, "Look, we're basically on lockdown, but we're in touch with our employees virtually, and maybe this is a good time for us to do a little bit of training because we are not, tied to the desk and in heavy production of whatever our product is." So they come to you and they say, what are your suggestions? What can you offer as a suggestion to do a training program for our employees virtually?
That's exactly right. We had a great client that had scheduled a face-to-face training on sexual harassment prevention program, as well as a cultural diversity training. And this was for a team of over 300. And we divided that into 6 separate trainings so that we could handle roughly 50 or so at a time. And we moved to a Zoom format to be able to facilitate that training. And I think that we learned from that experience that it's not as easy to engage participants, especially in some topics that are as sensitive as the ones I mentioned, because it really takes a safe zone, a brave zone that can be established, and that we found can best be done face to face. But that's typically how the process has worked, and it's worked effectively.
Well, I think it's safe to say that in most cases, any small or medium or large corporation sitting around a board in a boardroom table and all interacting with people is a much more desirable place to be because of the body language, because there's less stepping on each other's conversations as there is virtually. However, when you're faced with doing nothing or doing it virtually, then I think virtual now, we've all certainly understood over the last 8 months now almost, that it can be effective. You used a case of this in sexual harassment in the workplace. For a corporation, especially that's basically closed or severely impacted by the pandemic, For them to have someone on staff to be paying them an annual salary to teach people that aren't there, or to teach them in a small setting, it's also cost effective for them to go to Collin Corporate College and put together a program, because instead of having a paid employee on staff to do this through their HR department or so, they can work with you to do it at a cost savings. And that's what most corporations are looking for right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's some nuances of differences here, right? There are organizations that don't have in-house capacity, right? They just don't have those trainers on staff, and so for that size of an organization, we can be used as really a plug and play, right? We can provide that training, the kind of that training arm that they need. In other cases where, as you said, there's a training staff, a full house or a in-house capacity to do so. In some cases, those individuals are focusing more on the core business, right, and the skill training around the core business, and that's where I think we can come in to help with some of these things that are considered compliance training or soft skill training. Maybe not, the harder skills, the technical training that might be required for their business. So, yeah, that is exactly where we come into play.
What is your process for finding the people to do the instruction? Do you take educators and they learn what the program is that they need to instruct, or do you reach outside and pull someone in that's an expert in the field that they're talking about to bring them in, and then they work with both you and the corporation?
Right. I really have three different groups of people I draw from. Again, number one, as I mentioned earlier, we have this great faculty here at Collin College that I can draw upon. So, regardless of the topic, oftentimes I can find some in-house talent that I can draw upon. But then we also engage with vendors who actually provide this training as their business, right? So if I'm unable to find some in-house talent, or if that talent is unavailable, then I can reach outside and I can connect with these third-party vendors. But then in addition to that, I have kind of a standing job posting right out on the Collin HR site that I'm constantly looking for new talent, constantly looking for subject matter experts who are interested. And basically what they do through that process is they submit their application. We review kind of that resume and look at what their areas of specialization look like. And then we reach out to the ones that we're interested in, and we ask them to actually submit to us a course proposal. If they were to teach a course, what would that title be? What would that description be? And then based upon that, and if we have that need, or if we project we might have that need in the future, we actually invite those folks to come in person if they're comfortable, or we have them do something through virtual demonstration of their teaching ability, their training ability. And then from that, we enhance our subject matter expert pool and can draw upon them as needed.
Are the programs, basically a one-shot deal, or are these things that when you do these corporate programs, they can be recorded for use by those corporations on an ongoing basis?
So we have had requests for that, and we will accommodate that if that is something that the organization wants to do, so that they can, if it's the type of training that lends itself to repetition, right? And a lot of our training has been, again, I'll speak pre-COVID, kind of a half a day, full day, week-long boot camp. That's kind of our standard. But we've had recently some organizations that have reached out and said, look, we have employees that we want to. They're very specialized. We want to give them a broad-based knowledge of our business and what our business is, both upstream and downstream from what maybe their little piece of expertise is. And so, they've developed an 8-course program, and each course is 8 weeks long. And so they have created an entire curriculum around helping their organization really understand the entire a more comprehensive look of at the entire organization, how it operates. And then another example I'll give is on this diversity training. Again, it's been in the past oftentimes viewed as a half day compliance. We check that box, right? And we've engaged with several organizations, especially through the summer and into the fall, around if you want us to do the check the box training, we can do that for you. But they're really more interested in changing their organizational DNA. I mean, this has become a topic that I think a lot of organizations are really seeing needs time. There needs to be an ongoing discussion. There really needs to be something that it's not just over in a day, but that they have to cultivate some internal champions. So for example, we have a client right now we're working with a 6-month program. We have a subject matter expert come on site or virtually once a month, delivers some material, leaves behind some assignments, and then these internal champions continue that discussion until the next month, until the subject matter comes back again. And in so doing, really taking this training, this learning experience to a level where it can really affect some major change. It's a catalyst for change.
I mean, it's a fascinating program, I think, because as the CEO of a major corporation, or even a small mid-sized corporation, to recognize the value that the corporate learning can give to the future of the corporation, I think is invaluable. And especially when you say, well, I'd like to start a program like this if we had the time. Well, now basically is the time that you have the time, and a good time to engage.
I think the value propositions for most organizations is, let's just use technology as an example. Technology changes so rapidly. And so to remain relevant, you have to continuously improve your skills. And that's just an example of, I think, how organizations, they understand the value, they understand the importance. And I think it's also around employee engagement, employee satisfaction, and ultimately then that impacts employee retention. I mean, that's an issue for most organizations, is to retain that talent. And so by engaging in these types of programs, this type of training, this type of learning, I think it makes for a more engaged and satisfied employee, and they want to stay. There's loyalty around, if my organization is going to invest in me and make opportunities available for me. And again, it's all over the map. Some organizations will pay for a third-party software training package, right? So any employee can go in at any time. It's self-paced. It's self-directed, and they kind of learn at their own self. That's the locus of control. Really, is then on the employee. Other organizations are like, we're not satisfied with that. We want to make sure that we're more directed and more directive in the learning of our organization and our emerging leaders, or our key talent, or who we're trying to develop for leadership succession. And so, again, all over the map in terms of the scenarios that we work with.
It's, and again, this is a continuing education program for most corporations. It's not a one-shot deal unless it's a new program that's being instituted that requires everybody to be a part of that new learning process for that one new program. Right. What is interesting to me, and I guess challenging for you, now that we have been in this pullback, if you will, a lot of corporations have been forced to furlough people, to lay them off temporarily, whatever. the workforce has been diminished. Millions are filing for unemployment. If they have been let go by their corporation, if whatever the terms were, if they can't maintain their lifestyle, being furloughed like that, then they look for a job elsewhere. Now that corporation that we were just talking about has worked very diligently to teach that employee to be a part of that corporation. Now they're gone, and now you are faced with, well, we have to either train a new team to come in, or we have to do something in order to try and maintain that connection with our employees, so that when we do get back to a startup, they will want to come back and we can continue a better transition.
That's right. It's such an interesting time in history. I don't know that certainly my generation has not experienced anything quite like this. I don't think corporations have a playbook to go to and say, oh, a pandemic, here's what we do, right? I don't think most business continuity plans.
Volume in case of this disaster.
Right. And so, I think in general, I don't want to overgeneralize, but I'd say in general, I think it reminded me of Psychology 101, Maslow's hierarchy of need. These basic needs have to be taken care of first. And whether that's a business or an individual, the basic needs have to be taken care of first. And we just have been through such a time of uncertainty and continue to be a kind of uncertain times. And there's lots of anxiety around, what's next and what about me and how do I take care of myself and my family and others? And so I think that the employer oftentimes can bring that level of stability if they're able to, and some of that can be done by assuring their employees that they are going to provide opportunity for them, a future for them. But in other cases where that can't happen, I think individuals have said, look, I never want to be in a situation again where I'm considered non-essential, right? And so they're taking it upon themselves to go out and find, what can I do to become an essential employee? And there are a lot of training programs, a lot of career paths that don't require a 4-year degree. They don't require a master's degree. They're considered middle skill positions. And middle skill positions oftentimes are high school diploma plus something. It could be a year and a half, could be 2 years, it could be an associate's degree, but it trains them for something in a trade, or it can maybe it's in IT. IT right now is really less concerned oftentimes about the degree and more concerned about the knowledge, the credential, and then I think the paraprofession are also considered in this area. So a lot of support in the medical field doesn't necessarily require that 4-year degree.
We've been talking initially about these large and middle-sized corporations, but even if you get to the point of an individually owned business, one location, maybe 2-3 locations and all, but still considered to be a small company rather than a corporation. Are there programs whereby the owner of that corporation may be able to connect with your office to either take a class through Collin Corporate College or do a one-on-one program in order to kind of open up the opportunities and focus for their company?
Yeah, typically corporate college will serve a minimum of maybe 10 employees. That's kind of our critical mass, I'll put it that way. And so when we have an individual learner that's interested in improving their own skills, typically we will refer them to our continuing education office. They have those programs. Again, the nuance difference really is corporate college is going to put together a customized experience for a client and for their employees, whereas continuing education is open enrollment. Anybody can join a class in Excel or whatever the topic might be. Again, the difference would be through continuing education, it's going to be a set time, a set date. This is going to be the curriculum. I don't want to say it's off the shelf, but it's more off the shelf than if it's customized. And so that's, again, in a situation where there might be an individual learner that's interested, that's typically where we would refer them.
Well, I guess that for those that are listening and watching, if you are the head of a corporation, or someone, or you're an employee of a corporation and all, if some of these things that we've been talking about are worth your while, get in touch with Dr. Widmer. We've posted on this on the screen here the website, and that's the easiest way to get there. Find out more about what Collin Corporate College is about, and get in touch with Dr. Widmer to find out what the avenues are for your small, medium, large size corporation. And again, I keep thinking in the back of my head that there probably will never be a better time to do it than right now, since we are so sequestered that it's a good time that while some aspects of a corporation are looking into maybe new product development or program development, it's a matter of working inside within the four walls and working to better some of the programs that you have, whether it's that HR person that is the key person to be involved in this, or multiple people. You're saying that they can either come to Collin College to do the program, you go to them, or you meet in between virtually.
That's right, and I'll also share with you that although the core business that we offer at Collin Corporate College is really these training programs, the corporate learning, the professional development, that there are also other services that we provide, and that could help again with the recruiting function that some organizations might have. We can have job fairs specific to an organization if that's something. So it's concierge type service. I'll give you a pre-COVID example. Again, a lot of large organizations were telling us that the pain point that they were experiencing was really an insufficient pipeline for their middle skill positions. They just couldn't find enough people. And so, one of the things that we can offer an organization is, look, we will bring people. We have access to whether it's our graduates, our students, other ways of bringing people in that would fit your needs. But if they lack the essential skills that you need for them to even apply for their position, then we were talking to organizations around, if you'll pay for their training, right? We'll take them through a 4 week boot camp where they will learn the skills, those basic skills that are necessary for the jobs that you are not able to fill and don't have a sufficient pipeline to fill. And then at the end of that 3 or 4 week boot camp, the only commitment you have as an organization is to interview them, to grant them an interview. But those are some additional types of services that we can provide for organizations both large and small. It's not just the customized training programs.
All right, let's switch gears.
All right.
What is your background? Where did you grow up? Go to school? Your education? How did you get involved in this program? From the get-go. Have you always wanted to be an educator?
I'm a farm boy from Indiana and never really thought I'd do much more than farm my whole life, because that's kind of the expectation that was set for me by my family of origin, right? But went off to college and never came back, so to speak, because I fell in love with the academy and fell in love with higher education and saw the dynamic change and transformation it made in my life. And so I continued to pursue my higher education. I went to Liberty University for my counseling degree, and then on to University of Sarasota for my doctorate in higher ed administration. So I knew, again, right from graduating from my undergraduate, that I wanted to stay within higher education. So I've worked within higher ed for the last 30 or so years, and have been a college president, and really have enjoyed this opportunity because it's been an opportunity to take a corporate college that's been in existence for about 3 years, as I said before, but really add to that structure, add to that foundation, really take it, hopefully take it to the next level. But also I think the impact that we can have on the lives of individuals who maybe don't have the time or the wherewithal to go through the formal higher education process. It's interesting. I don't want to bore you or your audience with too much of a history lessons, but it's really interesting. My dad's generation could walk into a job with a high school diploma, and they could get a good job. It may have been manual labor, it may have been factory, maybe it's not, but they could earn a good living, and they could support a family. And then, with the advent of the end of World War II and the GI Bill, really, it opened access for the first time, other than to the elites, let's say, for a college education to be something that was that could be attained fairly easily. And so, our country went through this time, and it continues even into this day, where the 4-year degree really is the ticket, right? It's the expectation that we have for so many jobs and positions. And there was even a time, I would say in the late 90s, early 2000, where you really had to set yourself apart from the 4-year graduates and have a master's degree. I'll use the MBA as an example. That was kind of the terminal degree within the business world. Well, what happened then, or what happened next, was really with the emergence of technology and IT. These IT companies had such a need for talent that they were less concerned about that 4-year degree or the sheepskin, right? They were looking more for the skill set, the certification, the credentialing that they could have. And again, I think the trades now, these middle skill positions now, show that we've really come full circle. Now, I'm not suggesting in any way that higher education it'll always be necessary. It is, there's certainly a value to a 4-year degree. I'm not downplaying that at all. But it's really interesting in terms of training and middle skill positions, and how we can have this fairly significant salary without necessarily the time and the commitment it takes to get a 4-year degree. And I think a lot of people are moving in that direction. So again, I hope you can hear within my voice the passion I have around helping individuals achieve their goals by doing this.
It's interesting. I remember a statistic from many, many years ago that indicates that about 20%, other than doctors and lawyers and accountants, specific fields, that only about 20% of the population is actually working in the field that they studied for in college. A lot of teachers went on to careers in other things in order to make more money. People maybe studied accounting or so in college, but went on to work in another industry. But almost 80% of those people that are in the workforce today, if you say to them, "Oh, do you have a degree in this?" "Oh, no, I got my degree in something else." So it's general knowledge, and for those who want to stay in the field that they've studied and want to continue in that field, very often continuing education is the necessary stepping stones.
No, that's right. I don't know what your ideas of what your career would be when you were 20 or 23 or whatever, but we're asked at that very early age to say, what is it we want to be in life? And oftentimes we have not really a clue of exactly. And so that's why I think still to this day, the number one undergraduate degree out there, major that's declared, is psychology. How many of those folks actually go and work into psychology, become clinical psychologists? Very few. but it's a generalist type of degree, and so that's where people start. And they get their first job, they begin to understand and see what other opportunities might be there. And again, it's a question of, do I go back to school? Do I go back to a more formal training program and spend the time and the money to do that? Or do I find a way, right, kind of a scaffold and ladder approach to finding the training that I need, the education I need to be able to move in the direction I want to move?
It's interesting that you mentioned psychology, because my daughter got her college degree in psychology and went on to work in corporate with large corporations. And she is with United Airlines now, a large corporation. But I find that, thinking, well, wait a minute, you got a degree in psychology. She is extremely analytical. And I think it's because of that background in psychology that when she is in a corporate conference situation, she has that ability to analyze the people that she is interacting with in order to form her focus and the degree of interaction that she's going to have with those other people. So yes, just like those that go through education, they may never have a classroom and all, but what they've learned with their undergraduate degree in education is how to better acclimate themselves to just life.
That's right. I think those critical thinking skills, right? They're going to be used in any career path, right? The communication skills, these essential soft skills, which are often learned in that undergraduate experience, are going to carry throughout our career, regardless, right? And so I know that a lot of psych majors will transition into marketing, right? Because it's an understanding of the human mind and what makes us buy things, right? And it's just interesting to see where people will take a degree like psychology, kind of a generalist degree, and where they'll move with that.
And right now, I understand that in a lot of college campuses, one of those top-notch careers to look into is artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. So, these are not necessarily the type of careers that someone who was in college 20 years ago is adaptable to. They need to go back to the classroom and all to get involved in some of these new areas.
Well, I was talking to the commissioner of labor at the state of Tennessee not long ago, and he reminded me that we think of the jobs that are going to be disappearing as kind of the blue collar jobs. He said nothing's further from the truth. He said when you start looking at the work that many white collar positions that they can be replaced through artificial intelligence, that is really the group that's most at risk. And so it's just fascinating to think about how our job market is going to change as artificial intelligence begins to become more and more a fabric of our daily work.
How has this impacted some of the programs that you're doing now when you approach corporations and say, now that we are shifting from one really set of books, now we're almost getting into new volumes that we've got to now train and teach people to. Where does Collin Corporate College come into that process?
So I'll use cybersecurity, information security as an example. One of the areas of specialization that I mentioned earlier was executive resources, and within that, within those 4 areas of general areas of specializations, there are literally hundreds of courses. But one of the things that we provide are services to board members. So you think in terms of security, cybersecurity and information security, and we tend to think in terms of frontline users. We tend to think in terms of changing our password and some of those things on a regular basis. But my question has always been, if you're a board member, do you understand the language Do you understand what questions to ask, or do you simply defer and default to the CIO, the CTO, as well? He or she will take care of that for us. We feel secure in that. Well, I tend to think that if I'm a board member and I have some responsibility, accountability, culpability, maybe around the organization and its performance, I want to know what questions to ask. I want to understand the discipline enough to be able to ask intelligent questions. And so one of the things we've done in terms of cybersecurity is not just training for that, maybe to become more well versed in protecting an organization if you're a frontline worker, but it's also at the board level.
And I guess it starts at that level too. It's got to almost work in the reverse. You have to be ready for it at the board level if you're going to be able to create it from the grassroots level.
I think you're right. I think this is the type of topic, and I'll use the example I used before, the cultural diversity training, sexual harassment awareness and prevention. All these things really do need there needs to be a culture within organizations where it's really accepted and understood and appreciated at the very top level, and then from there it is being pushed down into the organization.
Is there a major difference between the programs that you develop through the college aspect and what corporations do in order to try and form those programs through the corporation?
Yeah, so interesting that on the credit side, so our associate degrees, our bachelor's degrees, all have advisory committees, and those advisory committees are made up of individuals in the industry, right? So whatever it is, whether it's welding or it's cybersecurity, there's an advisory committee that is helping our academic leaders make sure that the programs are relevant, and so that when our graduates step into a job upon graduation, they're ready to start working and contributing day one. I think that if I understood the question correctly, the programs that we offer within corporate college, I'm not sure I can answer exactly how they compare to what a corporation might develop on their own, but our approach at the corporate college is to really have the organization tell us what it is they want their employees to learn, right? So they are customizing this course to the needs of their organization. And again, we bring a subject matter expert into that conversation, right? And the subject matter expert can actually help frame and guide that conversation and say, well, this is what I've done. This is the way I've done it before. Here are the exercises we've done. And this is what I've seen to be effective. And in so doing, then I think we produce a product that's there's no surprises. The client knows exactly what they're getting, and in fact has helped design it.
Well, and that seems like such a logical approach to do it, because it would in my mind, it would be kind of counterproductive to take someone who is a graduate and has this knowledge, and now they go to work for a corporation, and the first thing they do in the corporation is sit down and spend the next 6 weeks or something going through that corporation's training program, of which maybe some is the same as what they learned, but other things might be completely different. And it puts that new employee in kind of a dilemma of, well, that's not exactly what I learned, but I guess if I'm going to fit into the corporation. So getting the corporation on board with the college program of how to teach that would be, to me, a shortcut to better productivity for that person that comes into the corporation.
Right, they can make a contribution from day one. Now I think we all know that every business might do things just a little bit different, right? They might have their own way of doing things, and we understand that. But I think the value of that advisory committee is, what are the core competencies, right? What are the core skills that are required to be able to contribute day one? I think that's the real value proposition.
Yeah, And you've been doing this for a while, but what do you see, especially now, as you know, with a program that you said is about 3 years old at Collin College? Uh, what do you perceive as your greatest challenges right now while we're still in the pandemic? And then what do you see on the horizon that once we get the vaccine and everybody starts to get well and they want to come reintegrate back into whatever we call normal, how is that going to affect the direction that you and your programs are going to take?
That's a great question, and I'm not sure I've thought through that completely, but I will tell you that there are certain sectors that I'm not sure ever completely recover, and I'll use as my example kind of traditional retail. I think traditional retail has been changed forever. I don't. I just think that as a society we've become so um, accustomed now to being able to order something online and having it delivered to our door that I'm not sure uh, uh, retail is ever the same. Traditional retail is ever the same. I don't know yet about the hospitality industry. I don't know about tourism. I just don't know what is the next normal there. But whether you're talking retail or you're talking the restaurant industry, you're talking tourism or hospitality in general, there are millions of people that work in these areas. And I think if I am someone that has had that as a career in the past, I'm probably looking at, I don't want to face this again. I want to prepare myself, as I said before, to become an essential worker. I want to be an essential employee. I don't want to have to face this again. And so I think that for us, for corporate college, certainly there's going to be this influx of folks that are looking for training. Now, they may still be employed, and so that may shift more to a continuing education a type of delivery as opposed to corporate college. But I just feel like there's going to be this demand. But I also think that there's probably a pent up energy around, let's get back to normal. What is that next normal? What does that look like? And certainly let's get back to our face-to-face delivery. Let's get back to our meetings and shaking hands and doing all this business development and the building of relationships as we've done it for so long. And so as that occurs, then I think that much of our traditional face-to-face training, which again, I think that I'll make a case that I think it's certainly more effective in certain topics, is going to make a rebound as well.
I really hope you're right, because when I look around, you mentioned retail. There is so much real estate out there devoted to retail, and because so much of it is going online, that you wonder how some of those retailers are going to be able to continue with their physical locations and maintain the overhead that they have when shoppers are not going to be as available to come in the doors when they can do it all online.
Right. But we are social beings, right? We thrive in relationship, and there are 15 different types of learning theory out there. But one of those learning theories is social constructivism, and the social constructivist theory is that we learn best in teams. We work in teams. We understand best as we work in teams. We work together, right, and we learn together. And so going back to this concept of learning alone, right? I'm sitting in front of a computer. I'm taking a canned class in XYZ. Is that as effective? Are we able to really understand and learn concepts and the application of those concepts as effectively as if we're together and we can talk and ask questions and understand from each other and learn from each other? And again, I just think that will. I'm not sure that'll ever be replaced.
Well, it may have to be a subject for another show.
Okay.
But I want to thank you, Dr. Widmer, for taking the time to be with us to share what Collin Corporate College is all about. Again, it's Collin edu / Collin Corporate to the corporate college. There it is. It's on the screen. Don't listen to what I say. Just read it off the screen. But get your answers to your questions. Call Dr. Widmer. Go on the website and all. Thank you again for taking the time. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, I look forward to taking any calls that your audience might have. Happy to engage in conversation.
Very good. And again, let me just remind everyone that this is the last Friday edition of Someone You Should Know. Starting next week on the 18th, Wednesday, will be our next program, and then it'll be Wednesdays after that at 10 o'clock right here on KVGI Media. And hope you'll continue to follow us on Wednesdays like you have on Fridays. So again, go out there, make it a great day, and do as I always say, be yourself, because everyone else is taken. Make it a good weekend.